So I recommend people start subcontracting and developing a relationship with these large primes because that's pretty much your easiest, and it's not easy, but that is your best bet is being a subcontractor to a large prime, right? And those large primes, what you're giving them is access to these small business opportunities. If you have a set aside, then you have that competitive advantage. And then you would say like, hey, something like I like to tell, larger businesses is we aggressively develop business, not only for ourselves, but for our partners. We don't let opportunities go past us. If we can develop an opportunity out of nothing, but we keep our ear open for requirements. And if we can't do it, we pass it off to somebody who can. But, it's not like you say like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't do that. Good luck." You capture that opportunity and you give it to somebody who can. This is something like large businesses want to hear. Well, really any business would want to hear that. But as a consultant, I mean, this is what I do. A lot of it is sales. I would say primary thing is one, never miss an opportunity ever. So what you're going to do is set up a custom SAM search. If you don't have a bid matching software or anything like GovWin, you're going to want to set up a custom SAM search. You identify your customer, your client, you're going to identify their NAICS codes, their specialty bread and butter. And then what I do is identify the NAICS codes that kind of touch those. So, if you're trying to widen your scope of what you can provide to the government. You don't want to do all this work to get in front of the government or only offer, a very small selection of things. A lot of people will say to niche down. I just, as a government customer and on the contracting side, on the private side, selling to the government, I've always found it better to have a wide scope. So I would find NAICS codes that touch, the primary NAICS codes of my clients. And then I would find who do you know? Who do you have good relationships? What does it do? What do they do? I'm sure you do work with people and they overlap. Like, for instance, roofing and HVAC, like those things overlap. Okay, so if you're going to do all this work to get in front of the government to capture business, you don't want to be scoped into just roofing because if you're ripping off an HVAC system off of a roof, and this is construction, by the way, and there's only supply services and construction, but this is just an example. All right, if you're in roofing, it would behoove you to know somebody with HVAC who does HVAC, gutters, downspouts, lightning protection, solar removal and disposal. All right, so now you're not just there touching the roof. You have a pretty wide scope to offer, a wide scope of services to offer the government and to a prime. All right. So you don't just say, oh, we only do the roof. We don't do gutters and downspouts, and we don't, we're not ripping the solar off and disposing of it. Well, now that prime general contractor has to go find other contractors who do those little pieces that you can't do, rather than just being turnkey and expanding your scope to NAICS codes that touch what it is you do. You're turnkey now. You can provide them a quote for everything. And whatever you don't do, you subcontract it out, but still you're doing the legwork, running it down, and you're providing that into their quote. Okay, so again, as a consultant, this is what I would do for my client breaking into, the defense market because they're going to pay with time or they're going to pay with money, probably going to pay with both.